Welcome to my little corner of the internet. Vincent from the podcast Liberté Académique suggested a book because he wanted to debate his author, Laurent Bouvet. The book is called Le Péril Identitaire, The Identity Peril, and it's very close to the culture war problems that are happening today. I read the book at the time. We did not hear back from the professor, but he's busy, and so I want to talk to you about the ideas in this book. He published it as an ebook, and it's actually very short, and I think it's interesting for you to walk through the ideas because I had never seen that perspective in the manner as Laurent Bouvet does in his book, so I think it's going to be interesting for you to see. I'm doing a screen capture of my computer screen so you can see the text as it goes. It's a translation that was done with DeepL, but that way you can get a sense of the text in English without having a professional translation. Laurent Bouvet starts by setting the 2020 situation. It's a bit strange. He talks about chloroquine, identity. He talks about the demonstrations that started. So when George Floyd was killed, it started a lot of manifestation in the US with Black Lives Matter. And a committee in France started to do smaller size demos, but still demos, to fight for a guy called Adama Traoré, who was killed some years ago. I'm not going to go into everybody Laurent Bouvet's sides because this is French story. What is interesting is that, as he said, we are in an identity age where we think about problems in terms of identities and the identity of the people who are into the problem and the groups. And that's actually a new conception that was not done earlier. So what he proposes is to see how our Western notion of liberalism evolved from its birth, and then how it shifted to what we have today, what he calls the identity age. He said the following, and I quote, "What is this all about? This contemporary way of perceiving, understanding, and translating political and social phenomena through the sole prism of the racial, cultural, religious, or sexual identity of the actors, and therefore, essentially, through that of discrimination on a very broad notion of racism. It is not just a passing passion or pathology of our societies, it's deeper, more complex too." And what he's explained is that we had a sort of totalitarian age in the 20th centuries with fascist and communist groups who were imposing totalitarian worldviews that's fighting liberalism. And liberalism is built on the idea of individual freedom, so on basing everything on the rights of individuals and the situation of individuals. His argument is that identity politics, or the age of identity, is actually the culmination of liberalism, both in its cultural and ideological version. He walks us through the conception of liberalism and found that very interesting because I was raised in a liberal society. Schools were promoting those ideas, the books I was reading were promoting those ideas, and I found great help with it. For example, when it comes to women's rights, being able to say, oh, every individual is equal, and so if you are of the female sex, you should have equal rights to people of the male sex, or to people who are in between for that matter, was actually a very strong argument. And if the state is claiming to be universal and it's actually not doing it, you can go on appeal to its ideal and say, look, this is what you chose as a program, now we need you to take it up and actually achieve it. He walks us through the progression of liberalism, and what he explains is that in the 17th century, liberalism was an idea of freedom, of individual freedom. And in the 18th century, it evolved from an idea into a philosophy, and people started to think about liberalism on a more broad range and to kind of put it into theory and to invent concepts going with it. For example, the separation of powers. So the idea is that in the state, you have the people who are making the laws, the people who are judging, and the people who are applying the laws. And these three groups should be different, because that way, if one of them tries to do something bad or to take too much power, because there is two others, the two others should go as a counterbalance. So in a sense, if the president was trying to do something illegal, it would be the task of the police to arrest the president, and it would be the task of the judge to decide whether the arrest was good, who is wrong, who is right, and to eventually to punish people who have not been following the law. And that way you should be able to keep the different power and strengths in check. And the idea, and liberalism also comes with the idea of human rights, which is a sort of idealistic but also very ambitious idea that we are going to give every single human being, no matter the situation in life, the same basic rights that cannot be withdrawn. And that's also a strong appeal, for example, against slavery and some brutal forms of exploitations, because no matter how bad you are or what you did or in which caste or systems you are, these human rights should remain with you. It's not applied everywhere, but it's a very strong idea to fight against power claims or violence claims from different groups. What he says that then this morphs into a theory of political and economic freedom. So the academics and the thinkers start to really go through this idea, and they also start to incorporate different concepts. So for example, liberalists start to incorporate the ideas of democracy and capitalism, and he talks about Tocqueville, who is the one who is going to reconcile democracy and liberalism, and the idea that the two can work together and don't work against each other. We gain from this period a lot of concepts, and for example, he cites John Rawls' utilitarianism, which is a theory from the UK where you try to weigh benefits of different people and groups of people to see how to take decisions. All these ideas had to be fought and they had to be chosen, and what Laurent Bourvet is explaining is that we still have lingering effects of them today. One of them is civil disobedience. It is the idea that was proposed by John Locke already when he was thinking about everything. It's the idea that the state is here to manage everybody, but it's here to keep freedoms. And so actually it's almost a duty of people, if the state is being bad or overreaching or taking too much power, that people should unite and disobey and fight back. And Laurent Bourvet says it's quite funny because a lot of people who are fighting liberalism are actually completely getting into these logics and using these concepts of liberalism to fight for their own arguments. Laurent Bourvet is against identity politics on the ground that if you multiply the number of identities and they keep making claims, you end up with a fight between these groups and an isolation and a fragmentation of society. And so if you have to weigh the interest of Islam people and then ex-Islam people and then Christian and then ex-Christian and then atheist and then Islamist Christian and whatever, you end up everybody kind of moving apart into their own groups and making their own rules and everything, which goes against the idea of people living together. And for Laurent Bourvet, he talks a lot about the Republican idea, which is a French idea that everybody is living together as a nation, and that also means going into a common agenda, like setting your own goals in life and agreeing on some values that are worth fighting for everybody, even if it displeases some. He concludes by saying, thus the identity age continues the liberal adventure, but at the same time closes the liberal universe on itself. And I think it's quite an interesting claim, because going into communities and groups and kind of going apart when you go in small leftist group, for example, if you go in feminist groups, there is a strong push to identify. So you have to pick an ideological frame and you kind of get into that niche where you get very strong support from the other woman in the group, but it's also very isolated, and then you cannot really disobey. And in the end, you have this fragmentation that comes from the liberal view that you come as a person with value and freely, but in the end, you end up in a group where those freedoms that let you come in kind of evaporate in favor of group freedom, which, by the way, can lead to very strong things. If we compare Switzerland and Japan, the culture are quite different, but Japan also manages to do great work and grow a very strong society with a very strong community conception. But it also comes as a cost for individuals, and while some people are happy to have such strong social ties with everybody and so many rules, other people really suffer from it. So it might also be a question of personality and character, to see who is going to love his choice more than others. Now, what Laurent Bourvet is explaining is that the 20th century was the age of totalitarianism, with communism and fascism, and a way that the Western world, but especially the USA, decided to fight it is to create neoliberalism. And neoliberalism is kind of an ideology to fight another ideology. So it was taking liberalism, but it was turning it into something very aggressive, very ideologically challenging, to make sure it could fight off against the ideas of communism and fascism. And one of the results of that, and of its success, is that fascism and communism were largely defeated in the Western world, and even China moved to somewhat of a more capitalist structure. But it also means that it's still living today and it stays very aggressive. And one of his strategies is to say that it's merely an explanation and not an ideology in itself and not a set of beliefs. And that's a good way to try to get into people's head but hide the fact that it's an ideology and a decision. What happens on the left is that people are being a bit torn apart between a bit of an old-school liberalism, which I think Laurent Bouvet would claim to be part of, this neoliberalism that is very aggressive and very strong on fighting, and then the rise of these progressively more identity-based claims of people who make demands for identity groups based on identities. And what he says is that in the beginnings of the 70s, several texts and several important documents and several ideas are taking place that change how the left is, especially in the United States. And one of these elements is John Rawls, who writes his book Theory of Justice. And his goal was to reconcile kind of the Marxist side of the left and the liberal side of the left, and to kind of move neoliberalism back into something manageable politically and conceptually. So what he did is that he criticized the idea of homo economicus, you know, this liberal idea that we are all rational humans who make rational decisions and maximize our interest, to mention the fact that yes, some individuals need to be considered also on the basis of objective and subjective identity and cannot just be treated as all the same. What happens with this movement is that the United States progressively moves from the welfare system that was put in place at that moment, actually as an answer to this identity politics, to a system more based on culture and identities. So a welfare system is based on the social status of a person in society. If you don't have money, if you're homeless, if you have a mental health disease. And when you move from a social welfare conception to a cultural conception, then you are going to take an entire group into consideration. You can take the element of money and health and things like that, but necessarily you're going to handle groups as a bulk, as a totality in itself. One point that I cannot judge on because I only learned about it, I know that in the 20th century the left tried to have a new left, which was a sort of unification of alternative lefts, and the idea was to be able to pressure the Democratic Party to change its policies. And it went into a more identity-based politics, but Laurent Bouvet is citing the National Conference for New Politics that happened in 1967 in Chicago. And what he says is that three features of today's identity politics asserted themselves. And one is the exaltation of minority cultures. The second one is anti-Zionism mixed with anti-Semitism, so pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel movements. And finally, he talks about feminism with a differentialist approach. So the idea is that men and women are different or have different needs or need to be handled differently. He talks about small groups that also disagrees with MLK and the Black Panthers Party, and who also wanted to move the direction more in an identity way. Another important point that Laurent Bouvet is bringing is that he's bringing the fact that this identity age is not just a left thing or a culture war thing, it's also affecting the right. So as he says that Nixon used his strategy with success. So his idea is that he took the Republican Party and he went with a Southern strategy, which is that he went to get Southern white people to vote for him, to vote Republican, even though they were traditionally voting Democrats before. And he based his recruitment on the notion that they were white from the South, and also that they were Christian, because there was a huge regain of Christianity in these groups in the South at the time. And so that actually two identities. And so the right built itself a new political base based on identities with whiteness and the Christianness. And on the other side, the left built an identity based on being non-white and also being on the idea of sexual minorities. And so both sides kind of simultaneously, but with different programs, grew into a more identity-based conception. What he notes, and I think quite a few people agree, is that the Democrats, by expanding their base so much, lost voting of many groups, and also in particular the traditional white people who were voting for them. And that happened with Hillary Clinton's election, where she was so sure she would win. And every media only talked about Trump all the time, sure that he would lose, but enjoying the clicks and the ads. That in the end, they destroyed some of their base and they lost for the last election. I don't know what's going to happen with Biden and Trump. I'm personally hoping anybody but Trump gets re-elected, but this seems to be an analysis that I've heard several times, and it seemed to me that yes, the Democratic Party is in a transition between different type of politics and it will pull apart also by money, and at the moment it's weakening the voting base because it's not satisfying people so much. Yeah, and what's interesting, because I don't know I don't think he knows about Benjamin Boyce's YouTube channel, where he showed several videos and reviews of people doing social justice but bringing strong religious elements like prayers and sermons and making people swear and calling up to higher spirits and things like that. Is that he said that Laurent Bouvet said, and I quote, "The scenes of public atonement for white privilege that we have recently witnessed are to be seen in the context of an affirmed religiosity of American society, but above all of the maturity of the identity age in the United States, whose way of perceiving social problems in France." So one of the points he's making is that actually this religious rebirth that was happening in the United States in the 20th century is also going to impact the social justice side, and that's why we see religious element popping into it. Which, from a European point of view, is kind of weird. You would not expect the left and progressive movements to be very pro-religious. Like, they might be accepting of the most progressive parts, but having people who claim to be left support quite conservative religious ideas and conceptions is simply a bit weird, to be completely honest. Now, the next topic is a topic that Laurent Bouvet has written about a lot, so it's kind of a summary. I'm not an expert on the subject, but the thing is, identity politics in the United States is based a lot on black people, and that does not reflect the same in France because it has a different history colonialist with its immigration. And instead, the issue of identity crystallized around Islam. And there has been a few very famous affairs, mostly with girls wearing the veil while going on school. And one of them was the affair of Gretel, where the president of the school decided he did not accept that. He wanted his school to be laïc, and he did not want to have religious symbols worn by the kids in schools. That led to a huge case. And in the left, what was really interesting and kind of scary is that the left that always praised itself with being laïc, so atheist and fighting off the Catholic influence that's strong in France, kind of split between one side that view it as a cultural identifiers, girls belong to the Muslim cultures and its identity, and the identity needs to be protected, and the pure laïc side, the old school laïc side, who was saying no, we don't accept that with Catholics, we've been fighting it, we are not going to accept that with Islam either. And if you watch an interview of Laurent Bouvet in French, he talks about it more because he was in the Socialist Party at the time, so he actually saw the things break apart, and he wrote about it in several books. And by the way, Islam is still a strong question today. It stays also a bit sensitive because there is a strong, or I don't know if strong is a word, but there is an Islamization that has been happening for many years, where certain countries in the Middle East have been heavily funding and supporting and promoting the more conservative side of Islam. So the one where women really obey men, can be beaten, where people can be killed or murdered if they quit Islam, or women if they do some things that they are not supposed to do. And so it's not just that there is Islam, it's that inside Islam you have these more conservative movements, and it's going with a lot of social issues, because people who came as immigration, or like whose parents and grandparents came as immigration, are often have lower opportunities in the country for education, for work, for jobs, or they are like in really bad neighborhoods. And so all this issue kind of mixing to make this a political hot potato that the French people are fighting about quite regularly. What's interesting is that he explains Laurent Bouvet, and I made the same thought. He says every time there is terrorist attack from an Islamist in France or linked to France, a few weeks or a few days later, you get a scandal that blows up about a subject and where France gets called Islamophobic. And the idea of calling France Islamophobic is to kind of move the needle and move France, as Laurent Bouvet is explaining, from society that's laïc or as atheist as possible to a positive and friendly laïc city that actually welcoming the different religions and fostering them in its midst. That's an important shift in the culture of the country. Now, Laurent Bouvet concludes the book with a not so positive conclusion, and one of the things is that he's saying this identity politics subject has taken the left hostage. And I think everybody has to agree with it. The groups that is still spared are going to have to fight these issues and see on which side they side and how they handle the affirmation and the demands. But what he said is that the left has a lot to lose from going identity, because then it's going to be divided. Because if it's built on people being multicultural, coming from very different horizons, and then you push identity-based politics onto it, everybody's going to retreat into their own groups, and so you break the left apart. But if you're on the right, and if your party is traditionally founded on one type of value, being originally for that country, a skin color, a religion, then actually the right is benefiting from this identity politics. And that's what we see in the US, where identity politics is getting stronger. But he also says that this shift happened in the right in France as well. Notably, the notion of laicity was taken up by the right, the conservative right in France. For example, with Sarkozy, where he took laicity and he kind of made it a Catholic laicity. So it's a laicity, but then when we take values, we are going to favor the Catholic side of views on things. And it's also being taken by the extreme right, the Le Pen family, Marine Le Pen, the daughter, who has been turning her party into an extreme right party about laicity and then using it to fight the influence Islam and to go against Islam by doing things that we can generally call Islamophobic. That's entirely true. But the problem is, in a way, it means that this concept of laicity that was being protected on a core value of the left has now slipped to the right, and now is seen kind of as a bad thing. And that's going to lead to very profound shift in politics, and we will see what happens with that. I have to say, I read the book when Vincent recommended it, because he wanted to do this debate and have me as an arbiter. And then a couple months passed by, and because it's short, I decided to read it again before I did this interview. And I feel like Laurent Bouvet is making a very strong point on the way these ideas are making their way through the political side of life. I don't think it's quite accurate when you talk about the social or the cultural side, but when it comes to politics, because it's kind of a small world, at least in France, but I think in the US too, where you go to certain universities, you have networks, you hang out with people, and so finally when these ideas influence, they kind of influence each other and travel between each other in this part of society. I'm sympathetic with the idea that Thea Smith has brought up in her YouTube channel, that it's actually more of a marketing product at this point. So a lot of identity is actually a great thing to sell stuff. Laurent Bouvet makes the same claim, because if you can divide people into several identities and you can cater to their very specific needs, you create new markets, a new possibility to sell stuff. So suddenly you're not just selling one type of pasta, you are selling different type of pasta to all the different identities of people who require their own culturally appropriate pasta. And that would explain why the ideology, so the thought process, is actually not improving. Because that's one of the things I don't get with academia, is that a lot of the ideas that I see, or in a lot of the books that I see published on feminists, almost all of them with a few exceptions, don't really improve much. It's like we have this knowledge of ID, like the fact that there is stereotypings of girls at school. Okay, we know that for ages. We don't need another 100 books on that topic. But what we want is maybe people who has an iconoclast ID, a new ID, a weird ID, something that wasn't done before, or an insight that could let us to think about this subject and find a solution, like a workable solution for everybody. And I feel like it's a bit stuck in some ways, and that would be well explained by the fact that at this point it's a marketing product. And it explains why diversity training are being sponsored by big companies who probably don't give a crap about it. I mean, if you consider Nike, they are doing inclusive advertisements and things like that, but they still hire people who are near slavery to make the products. So it's not like the company had actually made a commitment to treat its worker better. It's lip service because it's very cheap to do. If you like this, I recommend that you check out the text. I bought it and I Google translated it. Actually, the translation is really good because the document doesn't have a diagram. It only has watermarks, and maybe you can find interviews of Laurent Bouvet on it. I also recommend you follow my YouTube channel if you like this video, and I will see you the next time.